Speaking of being in collaboration with people, obviously, like recently, we've had some stuff with AI come
Yeah.
up recently, particularly with Horizon. What worries you the most about what's happening with AI as far as like what's happened with Horizon recently?
My concern about AI is really so much about, so for some context, SAG-AFTRA is on strike against video games and has been for a little while now around AI as the main issue, as the main sticking point. As I said in the video, Gorilla reached out and said, like, this was a test. We weren't like using this for development. And really, I don't think anyone that's part of the union, any part of membership is inherently anti-AI being used at all. It's a tool, and I think there are probably really great ways to use it to help like streamline the game development process. There's probably ways of using AI that like really helps like make things more efficient and makes people's jobs easier. We love that. We love making people's jobs easier.
Yeah.
These creative skills that are sort of difficult to define, like acting or writing, right? Like I'll just speak for those because I'm the most familiar with those. They're sort of ephemeral. It's like hard to, you can study them and people do obviously, and it's good to develop craft, but there are so many different schools of thought and it's a little bit of a black box, I think. And it's sort of hard to measure. Like I think people that aren't in the industry, they might respond to a performance and not know why, or respond to writing and not necessarily know why. They're just moved by something. And I don't think we're replaceable, as creatives. Like you can't replace the human spirit. But I am afraid of some developers trying to use AI to replace performers in roles that like I cut my teeth on coming up. Like I would be very surprised if, you saw like an entire open world game where every character was AI. I'd be horrified. I'd be very surprised. But I do think like there is a risk of NPCs in those worlds, or, characters that like are in multiplayer games that do call outs, like things that are maybe less sessions and maybe are not as narratively heavy, that people could be like, I could conceive of a world in which a dev might be like, yeah, let's just have AI do that. And the thing that we lose is there's always a human perspective and a human touch to a human actor. Like you bring, that's what so much of what I learned with Aloy is that like my version of Aloy is the only version that exists. Ashley Johnson's version of Ellie is the only version that exists. And I'm, like if you put a different actor in either of those roles, they would just be completely different characters. They would just be completely different. Like, and I think it's probably the case for I don't know about The Last of Us, but for me, as I continued to play Aloy, the writers started writing to me, which they told me, like, right. So like they saw instincts that I had or perspectives that I had, and they shifted and went, oh, that's interesting that she's doing that. Like, oh, she's sort of doing this in a more sardonic way. We like that. Let's write more towards that. Let's do more, like, let's give her more jokes. Let's make her more, So again, that collaboration, like you can't collaborate with a robot. So even characters that might seem small or might not seem to have that much performance in them, the person performing them is still bringing so much to it. There is no role that is too small to have the human touch and to have that actor's perspective and their craft coming through it. And so that's one thing, is that I just think that you'll be like, as a gamer, I'll be losing out on those performances. And then as a performer, there are so many games that as I said, like between Tiny Tina and Chloe, that I learned how to be a voice actor. Like, I'm so lucky that Tiny Tina was my first role, because so much of it was like an extension of what I was already doing with my brother. But there was a lot I had to learn about being a voice actor. There's a lot I had to learn about, like taking direction or changing things up in my, my pace, or literally even just stuff like learning to speak slower, like, and it's that 10,000 hours thing, right? And so if you cut away so many of these roles that younger performers need to like cut their teeth and get their experience, we're going to be losing out on our next generation of great performers. And I don't want that as someone that works in this industry or as a person that loves games. So yeah, I as I said in the video, I've always been in support of the strike because it's so important to get the protections that we need because, you know, union protections are always for, you know, they're the baseline. So you can negotiate individually as much as you want, but like this is to protect our entire community as best we can, which is really important to me because I want this. I love this industry and I love this art form and I want it to be sustainable for people to keep doing. So yeah, does that answer your question?
I think it does.
Okay, great.
Absolutely. Yeah, it comes back to that collaboration. It comes back to that, like Harrison Ford, like what would AI have done with Han Solo?
Right.
You know, like AI would have been exactly what we said before. It would have been robot, the robot actor just listening to everything the director says and then just giving you exactly what you've asked for.
Which for some people, I'm like, sure, they're like, that sounds great. But what I think people don't realize is that like so much of the joy of watching a performance is being surprised.
Yeah.
And I have an experience now as like a producer and a director that my favorite moments are when people add things that like there's the show that I co-show ran, which is a spin-off of Mythic Quest called Side Quest, which is like an anthology of 4 different episodes, and it just came out on Apple TV Plus.
Just saying.
You know, we have 4 different episodes that are sort of set in the gaming world about very different subjects. And one of my favorite, I mean, I love them all, but one of my favorite episodes of the series is the second episode, which is called Pull List, which takes place in a Black-owned comic book store. And it's about these mega fans of Mythic Quest that are waiting for a Mythic Quest comic, but there's only one copy. So they're fighting over the one copy. And the actors that we cast were so amazing. I mean, all of our actors in all of our episodes are awesome, but it was like a big ensemble, you know, and they just clicked and they found moments with each other that we didn't write. And they came up with jokes that we didn't write. And they just took ownership of those characters and they really breathed life into them and exceeded anything that we could have thought to do. And we were surprised so much by their chemistry and what happened when they bounced off of each other. And it just made the episode so much better. And I think when people don't understand that piece of it, that's what an actor brings, they don't realize what they're missing out on. And so, yeah, I think any developer that's like, I want to be able to like push a button and have them say exactly what I want them to say, doesn't realize how much more you get out of having a person there that can like make an iconic performance of you, make one of your characters pop, like make your game pop, you know? So yeah, I just think it's a short-sighted thing, and we're trying to, it's like an answer to a problem that no one asked anyone to solve,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
But you know that somebody might at some point take that route.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. Like, you know, we might be saying the say right now and say, oh, that's not gonna happen. Yeah, but all it takes is one person to just be like, no, this is what we're doing now.
Right. And again, it's this thing of like, it's not that I believe that like every developer is going to suddenly go out and replace all of their actors with AI. I don't think that's true. But again, we are fighting for the protection against the worst case scenario. That is what union contracts are for. It's a baseline of protection so that everyone's taken care of. And it's really important, you know, it's really important to get that. Like, I love our industry, and I think that most people know how valuable actors are, which is why so many people have signed interims. We have like, I think over 150 games that have signed interim contracts, which is amazing. So there are plenty of people that know what value we bring. And I think some people don't. And so we have to protect against that possibility.